All right, we're live.
Maybe just like raise the mic up so it doesn't look like you're gonna take
I'm
an
gonna
order.
telemarket you guys later. So I,
Oh, is that
We were
recording?
like,
Is that
I was
mic
about to
actual
say,
recording it?
yeah,
oh yeah,
later on tonight I'm gonna sell you guys some AT&T phone service. You know, I wear a lot of different hats over here.
A lot of different headphones too.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
dial for dollars.
that's a terrible joke.
well,
Did either of you guys ever telemarket when you were young?
yep.
Yeah, I worked for a company called ProMark. It was I did it in 10th and 11th grade, and I was selling long distance phone service. It was the hustle, and the ladies that were the best at it were like the stay at home moms. We had to go into obviously this call center because this was pre work from home. But yeah, these ladies were just like beastodons, could just close people for their long distance carrier like none other. But anyways,
Did you ever do door to door?
I did not. I did not. I was actually, as you can well, I was pretty good at like telemarketing or over the phone sales. So I did that for a while. I was like, that was a hustle.
I
Yeah,
think the
dude, I did.
stay-at-home moms are the best salespeople.
Yeah.
I
For
think they
sure.
are because they they're like they're not looking for something glorious. They just want to make money, and they want to make money with the least amount of time investment. And telemarketing, you can do it at home, and it's sales, and you can pick your own hours,
Yeah.
and they don't care. Like it's not there's no ego. Like okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom doing telemarketing. I don't give a shit. It makes money. I can do it, and I just it's just yeah. It's just like for like any job when you get older. It's just
These ladies would blow me away because they would be like knitting while they would like call. And, we had to read a script. So they're just like, want to talk to you about how we can save you money on your long distance carrier. And the customer would hang up and it would just auto dial the next one. And they would just know the script off and just be banging out scarves.
Yeah, I did. So it wasn't telemarketing. We were doing surveys, and the contract that we had was a survey for like Home Depot versus Lowe's, and yeah, it was super. People hated us because no one
Yeah.
knows the difference between a survey and a telemarketer. You're just reaching out cold on the phone. But dude, I'll tell you what, like people would get furious. I did like the office art, so like the framed posters, like the cheap framed posters that you see in like doctors offices. I'd drive around in my mom's Dodge Duster, dude. When I was like 17, I got this. I answered an ad, dude, and I was going door to door people's offices. Talk about fucking miserable, dude. They were so angry, man. But these guys would go in there, and the main like the sales manager, because all this guy did was the owner of it. He just ordered 1,000 of these. Oh, what do you call it?
Cheap
Like
art. Yeah.
a
Alibaba
load from Taiwan or whatever. What do they call
container.
those? A container. That's it. A
Yeah.
container. They get a container, and then he got an office or whatever, and then just put an ad out in the paper and just deploy like 100 guys going out there. But the manager, his partner on it or whatever. I mean, the guy was good, dude. Like he sold like, and we were making like $5 a picture, dude. And I think like in the 3 hours he trained me, he made like $200, dude. He sold like 40 of these things, dude. I was just like, oh my God. He was like 6'4", super slick. And all the ladies in the office, they bought everything this guy was selling, dude. I was terrible, man. Terrible. They're like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Have you ever
Get
been
out of here.
scammed by like a salesman, like just a door to door?
Yeah, he's on the episode right now.
Have you ever been scammed by a sales guy?
He's my business partner and take my boat test. It was like the worst deal ever.
But have you like truly been hustled by like a door to door, like a phone? I mean, I have. So I'm curious.
No.
What have
No?
you been hustled? I want to know what Greg Fisher got hustled on.
All right, I was 19, and I was in a parking lot at Publix, and these guys,
Girl Scout cookies.
two guys came up to me, and they had like some electronic company polos, and they had a van, and they had all these electronics, and they said that they had a return, and they want to sell these electronics, these speakers. So I went in there and looked at them, And I'm a naive 19-year-old, right? So the guys like showed me a book that showed the face value of these speakers to be like 3 times as much. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I could buy these and then flip them on eBay if they're worth as much as they are. They were selling them to me for like $500. So I get in my car and I look on my phone and I see like these speakers. They're legit. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll buy them. So I go in and I buy them, and they had this perfect hustle. Like I said no at first, and then they played the good cop, bad cop. It was like this whole entire script they had. So one.
Good evening, sir. My name is Steve. I come from a rough area. I used to be addicted to crap, but now I'm off and trying to stay clean. Okay. That is why I'm selling magazine subscriptions. No. And I was hoping that you could help me out. You used to be addicted to crack?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
His name was Steve too. Did you hear him go, hello, my name is
My
Steve.
name is
Yeah.
Steve.
So one guy gave me his phone number. So I mean, I'm thinking this is quite legit because the guy's.
Yeah, God, does this end with you in their van, dude? Are you in a milk carton somewhere in Michigan?
Every time I had a doubt, they kind of reassured me. They gave me their cell phone. The cell phone worked. They had a name of their company. They had a van with a magnet on it with their name. Like every single time I had a doubt, they covered it. So finally, I'm like, okay, I went to the ATM. They hooked them up. The speakers worked, and they looked new, and I bought them. Okay. I get back to my dorm room, and my roommate comes in. He said, "Oh, where'd you get those?" I said, "Yeah, man, these guys from there in Publix, they sold them to me." And he's like, and you're not going to like to hear this, but that's like an old scam that's been going on, and they target college kids. He's like, they make a killing doing this. He said, and I'm like, well, I got the guy's phone number. I'll call him. And I called him, and then nothing. Like it was total. And then I went to eBay, and I thought I went to the right page, but it actually is a different name. And there's like 1,000 of these speakers for like $30 a pop. So yeah, I got scammed, but I used them.
Greg, yeah, not Kevin.
For 20 years. I used them and they worked. So I don't know.
You got your money out of them.
I did. I guess I got my money out of them, but it was, I definitely got hustled.
All right. We are now on episode 179.
Yep.
Jeez. Congrats, guys.
179 of the Awkward Watersports podcast. And as always, I am joined by my buddy, Greg Fisher.
Yo.
And our bestie, our best friend.
Ooh, I get to be a bestie? God,
yeah,
so exciting.
The bestie of the pod. He sold his way onto this podcast many years ago when we first started, via like I think a direct message or something like that or emailed us or something like that. So you too can worm your way into our hearts with just a little bit of persistence. As always, our friend and yours, Steve Edwards, CEO of AAMP. How you doing, buddy?
I am great. Thanks for having me, guys. I love it. I love chatting it up with you guys. And it was a nice break between sitting in meetings talking about solving world's problems. So this is awesome.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I think of when I think of you, Steve.
Yeah,
solving world's problems.
I've been solving some problems today, like primarily my own, but problems nonetheless.
Yeah.
So every year we do, I think the past 3 years, we've done this like mid-spring, post-spring break episode, and Steve just happens to be that person we're talking to. And I think we're just going to make it an annual thing, like mid-spring, Steve on the show, and we're going to talk about
how terrible things are. Like we had 1 year where it was like we were all excited. Now every year going forward, it's just kind of like I think it's gonna be soft. Like soft Steve is coming on.
Don't bring me on for positivity and not beating us. God. Cynical Steve.
Yeah. Cynical
so
Steve, man.
I listened to a little bit of last year's show, and we talked about like what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And now we're here, and I think we're going to have the same conversation of kind of what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
But I'll kind of throw it at you, Steve. Like, what the fuck is going on?
It's such a mixed bag out there. It's if we sat in our meetings and you heard kind of the vibe check of everybody, I think it's like we're hearing such a mixed bag of like some people are having really great starts to the year, really happy with where things are going, and things look positive. And then the other half of them are ready to like just 100% burn their businesses to the ground because it just doesn't make sense. And I think, what is going to be interesting, because obviously we're seeing tourism is just, our tourism season is just getting started. Florida is generally our litmus test of like what's going to happen in the market and how are things going to kick off, because the weather is warm and sunny, and it's generally, or it's supposed to be warm and sunny, and we see some operators start getting the ball rolling, things start hitting some traction, what spring break look like. And it is, if we're judging by like the litmus test of Florida, it's not warm and fuzzy out in the marketplace. And it'll be interesting what we start hearing from some operators as we approach May and June and that summer rush, when they start seeing that summer traffic. The big thing we've seen in Florida is like Airbnb business seems like a lot softer than it's been in years past. We're seeing a lot of clients that are, I don't want to say dependent, but base their businesses based on, short-term rental type of stuff has been a lot softer. What did we just, one of our clients out of like Marco Island just told us that the shuttle that runs out of Fort Myers, and I guess I haven't gone to verify validity, so I hope I'm not going to get called out on this, but the Marco Island or Fort Myers shuttle that runs down to Key West stopped running because they couldn't fill the boat.
Let's look.
Let's make sure I'm not talking out of my ass.
Fort Myers to Key West ferry.
Yeah.
That would be shocking. I would find that very shocking. The Key West Express fares and schedules. Monday through Thursday. We'll accept here the cookies. It's really great. Now they can target me. No, they're running. Saturday the 18th. I can book online.
Does it run every day, or what's it? Didn't it run every day, or what's the?
Maybe they dialed back the schedule.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
No, Sunday the 20th. It looks. Oh yeah, wait a minute. April. Maybe Sundays are not. No, May is all available. It just looks like no. Sundays.
Maybe they cut back some of their. So again, this is where I don't want to be talking totally out of my ass. They called me up all like, "Oh my gosh, what's that mean?" I'm like, nah, I don't know. I don't monitor the Fort Myers to Key West shuttle. So, but I think that's the overall feeling that we're seeing out of it. But, on the other side of it, we're, on our other business side, things look good out there. Like South Florida looks like it's cranking right along. There's seems like a solid start to the season. So I don't know. I'm curious.
We're down up here. So I got my take on it is that I think if you're looking at fly-in markets versus drive-in markets, you're gonna get a tale of two different tapes.
Yep.
So I feel like drive-in markets, people that are looking to come in for the weekend, that are probably on a more limited budget, versus fly-in markets that have maybe a more international presence, has got more world traveling, and again, I guess it all who you speak to, and we could reach out to the guys at Arrival to get us a fucking hard data set on it and know for certain. But then again, you go over in that group and everyone's like freaking out because they're scared that tariffs. People aren't flying. Yeah, they don't want to. Yeah. Everyone who's like really dialed in on tariffs, who's planning their vacation, like, you know what, I'm not going to America because of tariffs. Like, shut up. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? Get out of your bubble. I don't think tariffs are, but I think the uncertainty in the marketplace right now definitely leads people to getting a little bit clutchy on their dollars. I'm hopefully optimistic for our market. But to Steve's point, like, we look at the data coming in from what we see from Take My Boat Test, and South Florida is crushing. Like, Miami is really going strong. Key West is going strong. When you get north of, and so just anecdotally, the operators I've talked to north of, call it like Sarasota, Clearwater, are like, this is awful. It is cold. People aren't visiting. So that's Florida. But I think that could probably be said to lake towns and areas in the north and in the Midwest. that are also experiencing this, sort of, we had a really cold March. So,
yeah. So I'm looking at like international travel data for March, and obviously it's just not good. You don't have to look far and wide to see that international travel to the US is down considerably year over year. But I'm looking at the countries that are down the most. So in March of 2025 compared to 2024, Germany was down 28%. And these numbers are from the International Trade Administration. So Germany down 28%, United Kingdom 14%, France 8%. So there's some pretty big numbers. Now,
who's going to the fucking UK in March anyway? You know where I want to go to spring break?
This is inbound traffic from the UK.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah,
well, who wants those guys here anyway? Take your fucked up teeth and your fucking bangers and mash and fucking, get out of here, man.
But what's kind of interesting? There was a few states that actually were up year over year for March. I'm sorry, a few countries. Israel was up almost 19%. Poland was up 22%. Like, where are Israelis going for vacation? Probably all over the place. Probably Miami.
Yeah.
Miami's
anywhere where rockets aren't raining down on them, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Sidebar. I saw the funniest TikTok ever. This guy's like, the best places to visit when you're going to go on war-ridden countries, because it's so cheap to go visit there. It's like you can get these hotels you can stay at the Four Seasons for like a fraction of the normal price.
We could get a yurt in Afghanistan for fucking pennies on a dollar.
So cheap. It's like, anyways.
But I mean, though, you got to think though, like our area, Destin, Fort Walton, it's 95+% international, or no, I'm sorry, domestic, inbound, drive markets. Our fly market's improving because more airlines are coming in and offering flights. So we're still seeing like record inbound travelers for flying every year, mainly because we're opening up more airlines and more flight opportunities. But it's really hard to say. But I mean, I just anecdotally speaking of trip shock numbers, and plus, an aggregate of what I'm seeing from WaveRes, is that it has not been a good spring in North Florida. Anyways, now South Florida, I've heard different. I've heard strong spring break in Key West. And that's just so surprising to hear that Northwest Florida really, is not seeing great numbers, but South Florida is. And why is that?
There's also we've heard all the chitter chatter too about Easter being late in the year, so people are taking their vacations weird. I think that there's a million reasons. I tend to think it is a lot of people are just holding onto their money. That customer that would have came and probably stayed in a Airbnb for a week and did, all the things, is not going to spend a $7,000, $6,000, $10,000, spring break week in the past. They're going to hold on to it. They're going to maybe take one major trip during the summer versus 2 or 3 smaller trips,
what I kind of thought is like Key West did well. Heard a lot of operators saying that it was surprisingly good, not great, but like good. Is that Key West is near Miami, which is one of the largest cities in the country. So it would be an easy drive market for like the colleges and the schools, just in South Florida. And South Florida has millions of people, and they do go to the Keys a lot for day trips. So we don't necessarily have that luxury. I mean, the closest major city, I would say, is Atlanta, and that's still a drive. But there's just so many people, millions of people really close to the Keys. Plus you have like your luxury travelers and baby boomers who really don't care about money. And there might be some deals and savings to go to Key West this time of year because of just overall travel.
Have you guys seen have you seen that Panama City Beach is looking at they're looking at doing something similar to Miami as far as like stopping spring break. No more spring break.
Yeah,
Steve,
I saw all the posts on that.
Steve, do you know exactly because you're our guest,
yeah, of course I do.
Yeah. So do you know how they worked it out in Miami?
They just they blocked all of it on South Beach. No, they put in curfews. There's no partying. They blocked it all. Like, huge police presence. They're just not going to have any portion of it. Even the businesses, they'd even put like, mandatory closings. Last year when we were down there for Ultra, as spring break was kind of wrapping, it was interesting because they were just not going to allow it to happen because it brings a rough crowd and they straight just tear up that South Beach area. And when Miami can command the prices that it does all the time, they don't necessarily need to foster that sort of crappy customer, if you will.
Yeah.
I saw the whole thing on Panama City. That's interesting that they're going to just do away with spring break crowds. That spring break customer, they're just going to keep going to somewhere else. They'll go to Key West or they'll go to Mexico or whatever it is.
So I personally think that that's also like a lot. That is a lot of drive-in, and that's where Key West doesn't have that problem because that's like the zero drive-in. Unless you're coming in from Miami, then you got to hop. You got to fly into Miami and then fly into Key West. But I don't know, man. I don't know what solves for that. So for here, I'm a little concerned about it, obviously, because that we are just a hop, skip, and a jump from Panama City Beach, and those regional, people, those near dwellers, those young kids having fun, getting drunk on the beach.
And we do not want that. We do not want kids having fun before they're 30.
Well, I mean, they're firing guns in Panama City Beach. A little different.
Pier Park is a family entertainment complex with shops and stuff, and there's gunfights. And I mean, this has just gotten to the point where they have to do something drastic to get a handle on it. They have put no drinking on the beach, in Panama City Beach for certain times of the year, and they've enforced it, but it's just not enough. It's just not doing enough.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I mean, you got to think if you're, I don't have a lot of Panama City clients, but it is interesting the idea if you got to think you're going to drop that many kids. It's got to be great for jet ski rentals. It's got to be good for parasailing. It's got to be good for some of that. Again, those are like, that's one of the areas where we've seen a little bit of a pullback is coming out of COVID. That customer that maybe got some stimulus money or had a little bit more discretionary money. Those were a lot of like parasail customers, a lot of jet ski customers. We've seen it probably more than we would have expected. Is like jet ski numbers have been kind of soft the last year and a half. And I think the customer that would have rented a jet ski is just like, yeah, we did that. We did that on spring break, or we did that 2 years ago. And I don't want to spend $80 an hour to go out on a jet ski. So they're,
I agree. I coming out of COVID, and I have data. I mean, actually, in one of the port conferences, I showed the data of how that, younger Gen Z demographic went nuts spending money on parasail jet skis, and it has really come down drastically. I've seen a lot of companies that we book for, they've either removed jet skis completely or they went down on their fleets.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're one of the last ones standings, then you're probably going to be in a good shape. Probably you're going to get all the market share.
So I want to pivot from clients to operators. Something you said to me, and in our discussions I've had with both of you guys over the since AI has been really taken front and center, not just in our space but in the entire in the world economy. And so like, Steve and Greg, we both have these conversations about physical businesses. And then Greg, something you mentioned not too long ago, it was the last week, I believe, was you're just seeing like, oh, I don't know why my computer just wants to, I don't know what it's doing. It just doesn't, I don't know. Now the blue thing is, now it's working again. I don't know.
No, you're good.
You're good.
I don't know. At any rate, so do you think that with, let's call it like aspiring entrepreneurs or people that want to start businesses with sort of some of these with sort of some of these businesses, maybe like going to the wayside or being hard to scale or whatever it may be, digital marketing agencies. Everybody and their brother wants to do an e-commerce brand. With that being said, do you see like maybe a hop to not even just necessarily water sports, but tourism and activities as sort of like an option for people that want to start up businesses? And would you see, like maybe like a running to this market for operators in the next, call it 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I always think it's like, what's the barrier to entry to get into it, right? I think the AI is like probably going to create a lot of interesting businesses we haven't already thought about, and it's going to kill a lot of these other businesses that are, taking a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that probably don't need all that blood, sweat, and tears anymore, because you can put some AI agents on them, my business included. This marketing agency, like as a digital marketing agency, is probably not going to look the same in 5 years that it looks today or has looked, 5 years ago. I still think that there's a lot of these people that want to go and start up a business, and they go and look, well, I can go and buy 2 or 3 pontoons for $50,000. And it's not even like they're writing a check. They are financing it. So it costs me X amount of dollars. It's a quasi easy business to step into, because, it's way easier to do that than it is to go, as we've joked about, open a laundromat, open a pizza shop, do, a bunch of these things, because you need real capital to go do that.
I thought that this year there'd be less new companies in Destin, Fort Walton, and it's not the case at all. I think there's more new companies this year than there was last year. And I'm thinking to myself, why is that? And these people probably know they're getting in at a time where it hasn't been great the past few years. But I do feel like people want to have ownership of their career. So there's that. Plus, I do think that like good jobs are getting harder and harder to find, because those good jobs are moving more and more to the top, meaning like highly specified, highly skilled. Now, people always have to eat. People need to buy, go to Walmart and buy groceries. They're going to need service-based businesses like running boats. Like there are a handful of companies that are just not going to go away anytime soon. A robot will not be running a dolphin tour or whatever. But, those type of businesses are really safe. If you think about it, if you can really figure out the marketing, have a good location, like you can run that for a very long time and have a very good living. Now I'm seeing it on the software side. I was telling Kevin this the other day, the AI code builders are getting so good that you can have like a 14-year-old that has a gaming following, like maybe he's a Kick streamer or a Twitch streamer. He has 1 million followers, and someone comes up to him and says, "Hey, I got a really cool idea to create like a gaming app, and let's partner on it." And then those two guys use Bolt or some type of AI code building tool to create some gaming app in like a week, and they deploy it. I mean, I've used these tools and they're insanely good, better than I thought they would be. And this guy has a $1 million AR business in like a month. It's just, this is what's happening. These founder-led, these social-led businesses that now they have all the tools. They can use AI to do customer service, build the code, write the scripts, do the accounting. I mean, you don't need 30 people to run a company anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that with Cursor. Cursor was like the first company to go from like 0 to 100 million in 12 months, and they did it with like 20 employees. I mean, 100 million ARR. Come on, like, but that I think is the problem, right? So I think there's two sides of this where we're all close enough to the sun where you see this little nugget of like, oh my God, that, look at what they created. Look how easy that is. Everything. This is where I kind of feel like we're almost dinosaurs, right? Like we're the ones that are messed up in this, where you take a 20-year-old kid that doesn't necessarily have this like brick and mortar old-fashioned idea of starting a business. Like I've got so much staff, it's absurd. It's just, I got staff coming out of my ass sitting here, and it's just because this is how we've built businesses over the years, and this is how businesses run. Where you look at a company like Cursor, and I'm only, most of us don't know what it is, but it's AI software for development, and they've created a mega company, $100 million ARR company, which I'm not going to say we're never going to get there. None of us are ever going to get there. We've been all doing this for a minute. We're all in our 40s. None of us have $100 million companies. And why not? I don't, because I didn't come up with that sweet idea to do that. I wish I did, but
what I think this does for a lot of small business owners in the physical space is that it does remove the barrier to entry for marketing, right? And this becomes less of a challenge when you're like putting together a business plan and you're trying to figure something out, even than it was when I started like 7-8 years ago. There was still a little bit of mysticism to digital marketing. And now that everything, right? Everything. There's so many different courses and YouTube channels and all these things. And now AI makes it even easier. Now it's like, now it doesn't seem so scary, right? And now it becomes a lot chippier out there when you do have everybody competing from the same marketing landscape. And as Greg and I talked about earlier, it also makes the other component that everyone seemed to forgot about in the last 20 years, sales, a lot more interesting. So if you're operating from the same baseline of like, everyone's got the same SEO tools, everyone has the same PPC plan and budget, everyone has the same good looking website, right? As you start to see, like, I'm not going to call them good in a traditional sense, but much better than they were 10 years ago. And that's logos, right? Now you see these AI generated logos, and we know in the space that is an AI generated logo. But even from like 5 years ago, somebody can go on a ChatGPT, spin up a logo that against what somebody had 5 years ago, like, you know what I mean? It was like their cousin drew it or something like that. Or, they had a niece in taking graphic design or something like this. So now you're going to sort of have like maybe these distilled marketing plans, distilled ad copy. Like, Greg, when I see like put together stuff for the port, like I know it's been AI generated, like what you use for like ChatGPT, and that's fine and well. But I think where kind of creativity and the sales side of it comes, because we keep on talking about this, like, chat bots, but I think, and I might be wrong here, but I also think that that's going to really be challenging, right? Because you create an AI chatbot or an AI salesperson, now they all have the same script, right? Now you have the same script, the same marketing. Like, what differentiates your brand from the next if you've used prompts to create your sales and your marketing?
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I think when you'd stepped away there a second, I said, like, as the agency as I know it today is not going to be the same in 5 years. And how people are marketing is not going to be the same in 5 years. The biggest thing where I see that people are still stuck in this old way, and I know Greg deals with it every day, is that like Google Ads has become kind of miserable. Google Ads is not this warm, fuzzy place it was even last year or 2 years. And especially in our space, because on top of like, Google isn't going to give up any of their profit. Google isn't like, man, I'd like to make less money. So their cost per click seem like absurd. But you take a company like Viator, which just seems to have ran up the bid in every single market. It takes you can take all the great digital marketing strategy you have around it, and it gets thrown out the window because you're getting beat out by way heavier hitters in these markets.
OTA bookings are going to continue to increase. I think Douglas from Arrival just sent an email out in his newsletter, and they said that it's like they account for, I want to say like a third of all bookings. It was something ridiculous.
I believe it. And Viator isn't giving up any traction. They're spending more than ever before.
Yeah, it was almost. Yeah. So another thing that's happening is Viator and TripAdvisor are kind of working in tandem to take up more market share. Yep. So if you're in a category where Viator and TripAdvisor are very competitive in, like, they're going to take the top 2 spots.
Always.
And Google doesn't care anymore. They used to put some, stops in it to where companies couldn't do things like this, but now they removed those as of like maybe a month or so ago. So now like it's very difficult. Like even I had a call with my Google rep and they're just like, they're spending a lot of money for clicks.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
where I don't know if they're even making anything, but I think they're looking at it as like an acquisition cost. Like we're just going to acquire it and we're going to push everybody else off and then just try to build this massive customer list that they can remarket to people. They're looking at 5-10 years down the road, not this initial sale.
When we look at like what their impression share is like for that matter, Destin, Charleston, Las Vegas, San Diego, Miami, for that matter. You look at like what Viator and TripAdvisor's impression share is. It's just nuts. You can't. It's a losing proposition for most operators because you just can't funnel enough money and acquire at a low enough cost, or I'm sorry, at a high enough like ROAS for it to ever make sense. And I mean, I'm not even trying to go just down a Google Ads path, because where I also think, and I think that, this is a thing that ourselves have gotten stuck in. I think a lot of operators have gotten stuck in. You go and look at analytics and it's like, oh my gosh, look how much of our traffic still comes from Google. And where I think AI is still, still going to be a bit of a challenge, at least today it is, content gathering, short form video, telling an actual story of like, if you're out in Crab Island, it's hard to fake that with AI. And people are buying differently. We were just in Miami and you think of like how we just did our trip to Miami. You're finding the things to do on TikTok. I'm not going to Google and typing in, I'm going to TikTok. I'm searching for places to eat in TikTok. We're finding.
He froze.
We lost him.
Our experiences and what we're going to go do. And, I just think that TikTok piece is still like, it still has a lot of traction. I think it's gaining traction. And it's the piece that is the hardest to do. It's easy to turn on Google Ads. It's really hard to create great TikToks and great content and tell a good story.
So here's a problem that I foresee and maybe already happening in certain markets. So I went back to the article that was sent today by Arrival. So it did say 1/3 of all travel bookings are done by OTAs now. That's up from 24% in 2019. So their market share is just continuing to increase. And I know from my research that if let's say that someone looks for like boat rentals in Destin and they hit an OTA, those top 4 listings are going to get 80% of the bookings. So if TripAdvisor and Viator are advertising and they're taking up all the market share on the real estate for clicks, and then those top 3, top 4, then what we're going to probably see, I bet whoever's number 1 on these OTAs in certain categories is probably seeing an increase in their overall sales. One of my larger operators that we have on TripShock, his OTA bookings were up for March. So
yeah, it makes all the
it's starting to make sense. And this is probably affecting entire markets right now. If Viator and TripAdvisor and Get Your Guide are taking more market share and less is going to direct, and then Google's going to want to do that because they're losing search share. So like an easy way to keep their revenue going is to create more opportunities for their advertisers to be shown within the search result. If you ever went to Bing is the shittiest search experience. Every like 3 organic listings, there's like 4 paid ads. It's literally all paid ads on search results.
Can you imagine like 10 years ago when you were in the vacation rental space and you had this like niche that, people didn't even like realize was a thing, that they were like buying houses and renting them out and then using all these different lead sources and building websites. And then all of a sudden Airbnb comes along and you're just like, wait, what? I don't think that Viator, and I could be wrong on this, I don't think that Viator ever gets it like Airbnb. Or Turo. They're certainly trying. But I think the diversity of the landscape, and I mean, they're definitely doing a great job at commoditizing the entire tour industry and things to do industry. But I think it's a much higher peak to climb for them because of the distinctions of all the different, but as you say, Greg, they go from 24% to 30%. I mean, maybe not next year, maybe not, but 10 years from now, certainly they could have the entire market. But I think that this is where operators have to get tricky and they have to get chippy. Like if they're commoditizing tours and activities, then you have to start figuring out like how you can set yourself apart, how you can grow your brand. Because if you're just zip line, if you're just boat rental, and you're letting Google and you're letting Viator turn your brand into a commodity, this is like the dog chasing its tail or wagging the dog or whatever euphemism you want to use. But I think, again, this comes down in the distilling of your message, and as Steve mentioned earlier, to the distilling of your story, and why it's so important that you make sure that you do have a solid offering, that you're not just Key West Parasail, or you're just Destin Boat Rentals. Like, you have to be Destiny Water Adventures, you have to be Sunset Watersports, you have to be Extreme H2O. And it's very important that water sport companies are making sure that they're attempting to curate even their most basic bitch offering. So if you're like me and you just rent boats, well, you better make sure that you have something that sets you aside from the rest of the other boat rentals, or you're at least appearing to set yourself aside from, because the last thing you want to do is turn into Enterprise or a Turo rental or an Airbnb.
Yeah. You have
I think the hotels are really doing a great job at combating this, because it looked like for a while Airbnb was like the sort of the thing, and now you're sort of even in hotels marketing, and even airplanes for that matter. You like when you look at Delta, like a Delta flight experience is so much different from American Airlines, and it's reflected in their prices. And I think that this is how brands are differentiating themselves, and we can be no different. Otherwise, you're going to be really upset when you go from paying 22% commission on your boat rental or whatever with Viator to 30% or 35% or whatever they can to completely platform your business. And I think it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for all businesses right now. It's not just our business; it's everybody's business to not get swept up by these massive companies, and that what are going to be massive companies now, as we, alluding back to the earlier, like that are 40 people. They're just massive revenue. Yeah.
That's my feeling. I think the businesses are getting platformed in our space, because I counted, there's like 14 OTAs in Destin Fort Walton. There's Captain Experiences, Fishing Booker, Get My Boat, Boat Setter, Anchor Rides, Trip Shock, Viator, Get Your Guide. That didn't exist 10 years ago. There was just us.
5 years ago.
And each one of those companies is PE backed. They got money. They're spending it. They're taking up market share, and they're advertising in all sorts of mediums that we're not getting ourselves in front of. The basic operators just can't get in. So we're going through like this platform revolution right now, and operators are having to get outside of that. And whoever is the top spot or has the most reviews on those platforms is going to get the lion's share of the bookings. This is how it works. So, I agree with you, Kevin. Brand. We said this last year, and we've been saying this on a lot of shows.
It's our first show ever.
Brand. You have got
brand versus commodity.
More on brand than you ever have. If you ever a commodity-based business, or your name's like Miami Boats, like it cannot be that anymore. Like, you need social presence. You need short form videos, like Steve said. You've got to think outside of the search engine, because the OTAs and the platforms are going to win. It's not, even for me being a smaller OTA, I cannot win. I have to be very strategic. And that's why I pivoted to affiliates. So my thing is partnering with property managers. I'm partnering with businesses that have a captive audience that constantly coming in, and then just doing deals with them. Like, I had to change how I do business, and it's been painful the last couple of years, but now we're finally starting to understand where the opportunity is. But I don't think anybody has done. I think there's still a lot of companies that are stuck on Google ads and Facebook ads and the stuff they've always been doing.
And so if you want to learn about this stuff and you want to know more about it, we are running early bird specials for the port this year in Destin. I would not be taking my own medicine if I didn't hard sell you guys here. Yeah, tickets are now on sale. If you go to
watersportpodcast.com.
Yeah, speaking of speaking of your brand, you know, yeah, go to watersportpodcast.com/watersportconference.com.
/conference.
Yeah, /conference.
Just go to watersportpodcast.com, and then there's a link for. When I bought the domain, we never thought about. I don't think we had the name picked out yet. So
no, we did. We did. We absolutely did. Yeah. So, Steve, man, we appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to plug, dude? Since we got you on.
No, I'm not. I don't need a hard sell. You know, we're. Oh, it's funny. Your camera keeps turning there, Kevin. I don't know if you're spinning. No, I mean, we're always happy to chat over here at AMP. It's been a crazy busy year. It's been an interesting start to the year. We've brought on a bunch of new clients and things look good, but I mean, it's, I struggle to not be cynical on a lot of this stuff, and I know that's not a good look, but I mean, I think it's also what keeps everybody alive, and it keeps you from pie in the skying it and then watching your business blow up. So, no, I'm excited to see how the year kind of starts spinning. I'm happy at least that we're seeing some operators now see some traction and see some bookings start rolling. So it's good.
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and we were able to sidestep the doom and gloom, and my computer, my cameras keeps on turning.
Not total doom and gloom, just a little doom and gloom.
Yeah, and then we'll bring you on next week, or maybe in a couple of days, we'll talk about the stock market, where it's been nothing but doom and gloom.
It's only down 2 or 3% today, just total, so no big deal.
That's awesome. All right, guys. As always, we appreciate you listening. From Greg, Steve, and I, keep it awkward.
Yeah. Very awkward.
All right.